We are live.
Are we?
Should be at least. Yep,
I see
there it goes.
offline and live at the same time. There's the visual.
Yep.
Hello everyone, welcome once again to an Unearthly Podcast. Between Twitch's problems and our own things, I think it's been might have been about a month since we've actually done the live performance, but we're back as usual. Huh?
3 weeks.
Is that when we did,
That's when we had to do the non-live recording, yes.
Right, that's what, right. So the week before that would have been the last live one.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you wondering what took so long, I had a really hard time getting a hold of this episode, even though I actually own it.
And there's been several other things that randomly popped up and caused constant chaos within the last couple of weeks, but...
Personal things, Twitch problems, and whatever else.
Mm-hmm. Put that aside, yay, a new episode.
Yeah. And as you can tell so far, it's our usual cast, myself, the Man in Black, Mad Matt, and Ronson. And as you can tell by the visuals, those that are watching the stream, we'll be talking about the two Doctors, the 6th and 2nd Doctor adventure. So, cue up the theme.
Oh, I actually forgot to cue that up. Just a second here.
Bad Matt. Bad Matt.
Hey.
No cookie.
Hey, I got everything else ready.
It's about a British show. No biscuit.
I had everything else ready. I forgot one thing. Should be right about... Is that the one? Goodness me. I know it's in here. So I gotta go with this. What is this one? I didn't delete it outright, so it must be decent.
Alright, so the two Doctors. We start with a black and white clip of the 2nd Doctor and Jamie McCrimmon. Probably the first time we've seen black and white. Actually, the first time we've seen black and white Doctor Who since the pre-credit sequence of 5 Doctors.
Although it's not really a clip, it is actual new footage that they filmed in black and white for that.
I'm not sure if there's a better term than it's not a scene. That's why I use the word clip. But it is filmed as though it were 1960s footage, and then it gradually comes into both focus and color as they see the destination, which is the space station Chimera. Upon being criticized by Jamie, the Doctor remarked that he got Victoria, noticeably not Zoe, to where she wanted to go. The Doctor then comments that the Time Lords now have dual control over the TARDIS. In the Doctor's attempt to avoid a commotion, the TARDIS materializes in the kitchen, where they meet one of the supporting cast members, Shockeye and Androgone. After a brief encounter in which the Doctor defends himself with a cucumber, the Doctor and Jamie head toward the office of the individual they came to meet. The TARDIS, ever wiser than the Doctor, kicks the Hads in and dips, although a comment is later made that indicates this might have been an intentional choice by the Doctor. A woman joins Shockeye in... Oh, of course, apparently I wrote this terribly. I pre-wrote this because I'm terrible at ad-libbing these. A woman joins Shockeye in the kitchen and speaks with him about sinister plans. The Doctor, meanwhile, is meeting with Dastari, the head of projects. They speak about the Doctor having visited the station when it was opened before he fell from grace, which I would have taken to mean when he was a student at the academy, and discuss that he is now in exile acting on behalf of the Time Lords. The Doctor is here to deliver a message. Stop studying time travel. Dastari shows the Doctor the woman who was speaking with Shakai earlier, revealing that she is Chesney, an androgon who has been enhanced to genius-level intelligence. While the Doctor and Dastari argue about the pros and cons of studying time travel and androgons, Chesney welcomes a small Centauran fleet aboard the station.
It's not really so much as stop studying time travel as stop the particular experiments they're doing, which the Time Lords said are dangerous.
Right. It's at about this point that the Sixth Doctor starts appearing in some comic relief sequences, alternately mentioning that he's not feeling well and that he feels as though something is happening to one of his past selves. The Doctor deduces to drop by a doctor and determines that Dastari is the directest decision for the duo. They visit the now vassal vessel, comment on the vapors, and voyage inward to become voyeurs of the Centauran veterans' victims. Chimera's computer considers the companions a contention of its confines and contests their company. And that's all I could really do of that. That was hard work. The Doctor disables the security system and something knocks him unconscious. Perry retaliates in turn, and when the Doctor comes to, they discover the attacker is Jamie, who is in shock from a Centauran attack. With the Doctor's help, Jamie manages to explain what happened. The Doctor fears that the universe is collapsing, a la the Big Bang, and that is how he survived the death of two, but then he discovers an illusion that tricked Jamie into believing the Doctor was killed. Meanwhile, Chesney, Shakai, and the Centauran are in Spain. Shakai kills an old woman, and Chesney manages to divine information from her brain. Her enhancements may or may not have included those of a space marine. They're holding two captive, and through a telepathic link, Six is able to discover where they're holding him. Dastari intends to dissect two and use him in time travel experiments, which were in truth led by Chesney and funded by the Centaurans. Six, Perry, and Jamie discover the building where two is being kept. Perry goes in first to scope out the place, but almost winds up being eaten. Six and Jamie, meanwhile, are captured by Stike, the Centauran commander, while Six is giving Jamie a lecture about time travel, but they're not fast enough. I apparently missed words that I intended to write. Sorry. They escape. They escape from Stike, but they're not fast enough to prevent two from being genetically modified to be more like an androgen. Six reveals that the lecture he gave Jamie was all for Stike's benefit, and that he stole a piece from the time machine that was intended for the Centauran fleet. While Two and Shakai rack up an enormous bill at a restaurant, Six and the companions search for them as the genetic modification affects Six's personality more and more, and the Centaurans blow themselves up in order to exit the plot. In a failed attempt to kill Chesney and Dastari. Two passes out drunk as Shakai kills the server and leaves. Six revives Two, who joins the group in time to be captured and chained up by Chesney and Dastari. The Doctors escape, and in the ensuing battle, Shakai and Dastari are killed, and Chesney attempts to leave in the time machine, which Six had tricked her into believing worked. Chesney ends up being slowly disintegrated. Two and Jamie leave, Six becomes a vegetarian, and the credits roll.
Okay, you done?
Yep.
Okay. I'd also like to set the scene for this. It's 1985, and pretty much since the Five Doctors in 1983, Doctor Who's ratings had been on a steady decline, with certain episodes, like the Caves of Androzani, that, had the ratings go up, but the rest of the time they had been down. Producer John Nathan Turner was getting really worried about the future of the show. It had been shunted from its Saturday spot to 45 minutes on Monday, I think. It's either Monday or Tuesday, which is really, not really prime viewing spot for its intended audience. Notice that this time shunt didn't come with a budget increase. So John Nathan Turner thinks, what can we do to get ratings back? We need ratings about what we did when we had multi-Doctor crossover. About the same time, Patrick Troughton, who had, of course, reprised his role as the second Doctor in the Five Doctors, had really enjoyed doing it. If you recall correctly, he had originally quit because he burnt out. Mm-hmm. Because at the time, the Doctor Who viewing broadcast was approximately 50 episodes a year, which was far too much for the actor to cope with. However, doing the odd episode now and then, he found he really enjoyed it and wanted to do it again. So Troughton approaches the Doctor Who staff about doing another Doctor crossover. Which came first, we don't know. But John Nathan Turner gets the idea that, hey, let's do another one of these and see if we can get ratings. So he hires Robert Holmes, who I believe also did the Five Doctors, did he not?
I don't think so. Let me check.
Holmes? No. They tried to get him to do the Five Doctors, I believe.
Okay.
He opted out because too many restrictions.
So they get Holmes.
I remember that their first two.
No, I think Dix did. I think Dix did the Five Doctors.
Yeah,
their first two choices for the Five Doctors were both unavailable on the time frame that they had. I think one was sick and another was something else. Yeah, it was Terrence Dix that wrote it.
Yeah, and I mean Robert Holmes is known for classic Doctor Who in the Third Doctor, early Fourth Doctor era, and he writes a fairly decent.
Well, he did write Caves of Androzani, so that was his most recent episode.
Yeah. And he's known for Third and Fourth Doctor era.
Right, definitely. The vast majority of his writing is in around that time period. Which you can tell by this episode, because there are times when the script seems to think he's writing for the Third Doctor.
Just a wee bit.
And, by the way, any rumors you hear on the internet about this originally having been planned to be a Fourth Doctor episode to make up for his non-appearance in the Five Doctors is a internet rumor and is false.
I haven't heard that rumor.
Yeah, neither have I.
It's out there.
It's
been myth proven. So anyway, Holmes writes a decent script set in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Involving androgums, who were basically intended as kind of alien vehicles for Cajun gourmets.
From what I understand, he wasn't initially a huge fan of the locale that he was writing in, but he did write some lines about the difference between American and British English that he was fond of that he had to cut when they changed the location for budget reasons.
But but it originally was planned on New Orleans. The andrograms were made as a simile to Cajun chefs, because New Orleans, of course, is known for its culinary abilities. And then the budget comes back, and they say, we're not going to have the budget to go to Spain, or we're not going to have the budget to go to New Orleans, so you're going to have to set it as far as Spain. So it's hastily rewritten.
Which is interesting, because in the new series of Doctor Who, they've taken Spain and called it America for an episode.
Really hard to get New Orleans, though.
They only used one building.
But I mean, I'm not sure what the difference was. I haven't seen the original script for this. I really wish I had.
Right, yeah, me too.
But I know it was a massive rewrite had to be done, and the location was changed to Spain. In addition, you can really tell where the budgets was starting to fall apart. If you look at like the Sontaran masks, they are reused from the Sontaran's last appearance.
When was that, by the way?
Invasion of Time.
Okay, so the Fifth Doctor didn't touch them at all.
Fifth Doctor didn't touch them at all. They hadn't been used since the 16th, 17th season. So it had been forever. The masks are ill-fitting. If you take any close-up of any of the Sontarans, you notice the mouth is hanging open.
I kind of thought that was just part of the design.
That's not usually how the Sontaran masks work.
Nope. That's what a Santaran looks like. Now, let's see if we can find one from this season.
This is actually the first time I've seen a classic Santaran, so I was just went along. I'd only ever seen the one.
Mandatory watch the Santaran Experiment, which is, or not the Santaran, but the Time Warrior. Third Doctor.
Oh, I definitely plan to watch that soon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's first appearance of Sarah Jane Smith.
Yeah.
Anyway. You can really tell that a lot of the budget was hastily put together. The Doctor and Jamie first appear in the black and white. The console being used is the console last seen in The King's Daemons, which was 2 or 3 seasons prior.
Yep.
Just prior to the 5 Doctors, actually.
Yes, I was just going to say that was the actual console before they upgraded it for 5 Doctors.
But it wasn't actually the console used by the 2nd Doctor and Jamie. Which was, first of all, their console room actually was a kind of a green. And I think so was the console because of the days that they filmed in monochrome green.
I was going to say, did we ever see their console room in color?
Yes. In the very early days of the 3rd Doctor.
Oh, right, because it was the same one. We didn't see it with Jamie in it, but it was the same one.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they didn't change the console room, I think, until after the 3rd Doctors.
The 3 Doctors?
Well, what I mean is,
until after the 3 Doctors.
You could kind of say that the Doctor changed it in between, although he really wouldn't have had motivation to. But I don't remember how much of it we actually see in.
It would have been nice for them to have, pulled out that old classic stuff. I know the original set had been stricken, but
I was going to say it was probably rotted out or destroyed or something by this point.
The TARDIS sets are like one right after another, after another, after another. It's like they had to replace the TARDIS sets every other season because some intern at the BBC would fail to store them right. And they would get mildewed. So they'd have to take part of their budget to replace the sets for the next time they did a TARDIS scene.
What did you search for, Matt? You're getting pictures of almost everything but Santarans there.
I searched Doctor Who, the 2 Doctors. It's just not a lot of pictures of the Santarans because, again, they were pretty bad in this one.
Because Google picked up on the words Doctor Who first. That's why there's all the pictures of Amy and Clara.
This is not my favorite episode, definitely. It's not the worst episode, but I'm not that fond of this one.
Yeah.
And I think a good part of that, it's not the writing, except the writing does get a bit harried and confused somewhere in the middle. A lot of it is the budget. It's certainly not the acting.
Oh, definitely not the acting.
I mean, what's her face?
Chesney?
Chesney of the Francine Grigg, I think, is actually...
Chesney,
what?
Right.
What?
I said, yeah, Chesney, right. I was pronouncing it wrong.
Is actually well known for playing sci-fi villainess, as she was in the series Blake 7 as the primary antagonist Servalan.
I thought she looked familiar. I have not seen much Blake 7, but I have seen bits
Isn't
and pieces.
Isn't that the same show that Richard Hurndall was casted from by Ian
Yes,
Levine?
it was. Yeah, he was in one of the final episodes. Not the final episodes, one of them. And they remembered him a couple years later when they were casting for 5 Doctors. Blake 7, by the way, is pretty much one arc of the big trio when it comes to British sci-fi. Because you've got Doctor Who, you've got Blake 7, you've got Red Dwarf.
Yep.
Blake 7 is by far the grittiest of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Sayward era?
It is at least on par with the Sayward era. The thing is, it's ultra dystopian. Basically, Blake 7 is take Star Trek and make it as dystopian as possible instead of utopian. There you have the Federation of Planets, only it's really only a Federation in name only. It is actually a totalitarian regime. The main character, Raj Blake, is a political prisoner being sentenced to a life sentence on a ship with a bunch of other convicted felons, including a petty thief, a mercenary thought to be a murderer, and a bunch of other people who had various issues. They managed to escape. Eventually find a alien ship called the Liberator, which they basically start forming a rebellion against the Federation. After 4 seasons, it doesn't end well. Blake 7 has probably the most depressing ending of any sci-fi show I've ever seen. You all still there?
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, I've heard that it gets pretty darn bleak. Especially since Blake
disappears halfway through the series. Avon, the mercenary, takes over, becomes the new leader. A good chunk of the plot of the last 2 seasons is the search for Blake, and they finally find him in the end, and Avon kills him. Just as he's betrayed, and everybody but dies, and it turns out with Avon surrounded by a swarm of Federation guards, still holding the gun that killed Blake, and he looks up to the camera, smiles, and the credits end with a whole bunch of laser blasts. That's how a series ended.
Actually, I thought they might have tried to force it longer, but I could be wrong, and that was 2nd season.
No, this was the end of 4th season. That was the episode Blake. Trust me, I know how Blake 7 ends. I've watched the entire thing front to back many times over.
So has Linkara, apparently. But I digress.
We can talk about Linkara when he joins the podcast.
I remember the first time I watched it, I'm sitting here going, the hell?
Depressing endings, right up there with Alf and dinosaurs.
Yes, but this was more in your face about it.
Mm-hmm.
Alf was close. Actually, no, you're right. They're right up there in it. I had to think about each ending in turn, and yeah.
No, they are depressing as all get out.
And mind you, the final scenes, as this final scene is going on, as each of the Blake's crew dies, there's this close-up of them slowly falling over in slow motion. And this is, I mean, some of these characters you had been there since the first episode.
So this is like killing the first replicant in Blade Runner-esque.
Kind of. This is, mind you, this was 81, so this was around the time Blade Runner came out.
I believe it's before, shortly before.
But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember how I got to Blake 7 from Doctor Who.
Cassini.
Oh yes, Cassini was Servalan. Shakai is a great character, although the Andergums kind of look like you take the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen from David Lynch's Dune and put hair all over him.
Which is not a bad place to start.
Oh, and no floating device.
Oh, and they're also missing the heart plugs.
Oh, well, that part of the story of Dune, not the story, but I mean appearance-wise, pretty much. If you cross Baron Harkonnen with a Scotsman.
And now, a Scotsman on a horse.
Hey, the Doctor's ginger.
Baron Mick Harkonnen.
Yeah, his eyebrows are ginger, I guess.
Mac Harkonnen. The Mac Harkonnen clan.
Oy.
Yeah.
But yeah, the picture. The Doctor is partially ginger. Partially.
Anyway, so that wasn't bad. The Sontaran reuse was kind of lame. And also really mostly unnecessary.
Just look at that bloated fish mouth and tell me that the costume's okay.
Now, what I'm trying to figure out, I watched, shortly after I watched this, I watched, what was it? Horror Fang Rock, I think it's called, or there's a Rootin'.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out, in the 1800s, the Sontarans were apparently going to win. And then this is here about 100 some odd years later, and the war is still, I mean, granted, that might just be the thing with the Sontarans and the Rootins, but I'm kind of wondering if there's any semblance of a logical line with this war.
No, there has been a stalemate for thousands of years between the Sontarans and the Rootins. If you remember stories of the Vietnam War with like Hill 402, where they would, one side would take the hill and it would be overrun by the other side like the next day, and it just went back and forth like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard of things like that.
This is basically the Sontaran-Rootin War, only replace the hill with a sector of space, and instead of saying it went on for months, it goes on for millennia.
Why? Because both of them can clone their race.
Yes, both of them can replicate like nobody's business. So numerical losses are not a big concern for either side. So they just throw more and more people at each other and keep going. That's basically the Sontaran-Rootin War.
Whereas the Daleks' similar war, I'm pretty sure involved both sides looking at each other, waiting for an advantage, and not firing.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Because their battle computers just did it. Until one of them had a statistically high advantage, they wouldn't have gone. Now, mind you, many a bloody war has been fought against the Daleks, and a lot of them have lost. But doesn't really pertain to this, does it?
No, not really. Gone off on your own tangent again.
Oh, Bill got me sidetracked about the Rootins. But yeah, it's so, the Sontarans, you really could have written this episode without involving the Sontarans.
Pretty much, yeah. It could have been a Monster of the Week.
They're largely there to give us a recognizable villain that we're
recurring right bad guy, and to pad the episode length to another full episode.
Mm-hmm.
Which this is still, I mean, I'm not sure about the 6th Doctor era, but for the 4th or 5th Doctor eras, I know this is still a shorter serial than normal.
No, it's not.
It's only 3 episodes.
3 episodes at 45 minutes. As opposed to, this would be about a 6-episode serial, Bill. This is longer than your average by about 45 minutes. You have to remember, like I mentioned, this was the era that they moved it from being half an hour on Sundays to a full hour on Mondays. Or excuse me, half an hour on Saturday to a full hour on Monday. So while it's only 3 episodes, they're double-length episodes.
Okay,
yeah.
So I know that some of the articles I read on it seemed like they only did that for certain episodes.
No, it was the entire season by this point.
They did it. Yeah, they did it for only for like 2 seasons. It started in the 5th Doctor's last season because Remembrance of the Daleks was also 2 episodes at 45.
Right, that's right. Wikipedia treats it as though I think only Revelation of the Daleks was like that.
It was not.
Okay.
Revelation might have been a test bed.
Oh, that's right. This is a longer than normal 6th Doctor episode. Okay, I can see that now.
Yeah. It might have been a test bed, but the entire of season 22 was done 45 minutes on a Monday night. Vengeance on Varos is like that. Attack of the Cybermen, I think, is like that. I don't know about the first episode of Crap.
Me?
Is that Mind Warp?
The Mysterious Planet was the first of the
No, that's 20. That's 23.
Right. Well, Mind Warp is
the one with the slugs.
That's the
Dilemma.
Twin Dilemma, yeah.
It was the first episode of the previous, or the last episode of the previous season. I don't know if that was done in the 2x45 or
it's 4 episodes, so it's probably the regular
25.
Length.
So it was probably when they moved to this as they went to the 2x45, and this continued through to the end of this season. After which there was an 18-month hiatus, if you recall.
Which was unusual at the time, but not unheard of either.
Yeah, it was a hiatus that was brought forth by Michael Gray due to concerns that the show had become more violent and was losing popularity as a result. And, if you notice, the Doctor does actually kill Shockeye in this episode with cyanide.
Mm-hmm. Well, you don't really see too much because the face is covered, but yeah.
Yes, but, the Doctor is usually not one to actually physically kill somebody.
Well, also, I believe earlier in the season, the Doctor shot down a couple of Cybermen.
The Sixth Doctor also had no problem tricking Cassini into vaporizing herself in a slow and painful manner.
Yeah, and actually, if you notice, of the supporting cast of this episode, the only one to survive is the Spanish chick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Everybody else, now, we're not including companions, because I'm considering them main cast. But of the supporting cast for this episode, everybody else in this episode died. You had, what's-his-face, the director?
Not counting the extras at the restaurant.
Not counting the extras at the restaurant, no.
They're just
but
extras.
You've got Stars.
The guy at the restaurant with more than one line was killed by Shockeye, though.
Oscar, yeah, and he was also the insect collector from earlier. He is supporting cast. He was the one that with the Spanish chick.
Yes. Again, supporting cast, background extras don't really count. They're not supporting.
No,
they're just back there to make things
your
move.
Stars, your main cast, your supporting cast, and then your extras. We're dealing solely in the cast.
If there were any extras actually seen on the space station, I think they were killed too.
Yes, they were.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only survivor there was Jamie, who was main cast. But they don't
kind of lazy of them. They were just like, oh yeah, the Centaurans will take care of him.
What was the name of the director of the station? The guy that looked like Elton John?
Dastari.
Dastari. He died.
Yep.
Cassini died. Shockeye died. All the Centaurans died. Oscar died. And even though she's virtually an extra, the blind lady that owned the chateau died.
Mm-hmm. She was only important for literally a scene or two and got kicked out.
She was more than that because she was an important plot device in terms of being Cassini's disguise.
Mm-hmm. Doña Arana, that was her name. Anyway, and then of course you have Shockeye going on for the majority of the episode talking about killing a human and eating him.
And he tries to eat both Jamie and Perry.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode is particularly violent.
Although, actually, I mean, this is probably just me coming from the perspective of a sci-fi fan rather than a regular person.
Uh-huh.
I just saw him as an alien who doesn't distinguish humans from any other animal and didn't give it a second thought other than the fact that it was repeated. But for the average person, that would be a bit more grotesque.
Yeah. Putting it, though, in perspective with Doctor Who, which has never really done that before.
Right. Like, I look at it compared to him like something like a Trandoshan from Star Wars is relatively docile, but the average audience member probably would not have seen it that way.
No, and this is, this is the height of Mary, Waterhouse, calling and complaining about the violence in the episode. We had, the Doctor killing Cybermen not 2 episodes earlier, actually, I think just the episode before, and idly telling Perry to shoot a person disguised as a cop.
Yeah, that did happen, didn't it?
And 2 episodes later from this, we walk into... Oh, actually, no, sorry. I was about to mix this up with the previous Dalek episode. This one's not quite as violent as the previous one, so never mind.
Yeah. The previous one also, I think, had a very high kill count. This one didn't have as high as a kill count because most of the people that were involved in it were already declared dead.
Right.
And then in between that, we have Mark of the Rani, which had some deaths and people getting physically turned into trees.
Mm-hmm.
All in all, for a 5th Doctor episode, that probably would have been my choice.
6, you mean?
Or for a 6th Doctor episode, that would have been my personal choice. That or Vengeance on Varos. Which, I didn't even mention Vengeance on Varos. Oh, dear Lord. You talk about violence. You talk about the violence inherent in the system. Oh my God. I mean, they're using death games as, reality TV in a way.
Oh, and one scene, the Doctor...
I can't imagine you would make a Monty Python quote while we're trying to refrain from going off on tangents like we always do.
Oh,
Knowing who we have here, the fact that we haven't... Well, this is somewhat of a tangent, but you know what I mean. Kind of remarkable.
You see, the thing is, though, making quotes like that is inherent to my nature. I can't not make a quote if it pops into my head. It has to be said.
I feel you.
But as I was about to say on Vengeance on Varos, there's actually a sequence in there where the Doctor kicks a guy into a vat of acid.
Actually, the guy, I think, he doesn't kick him into a vat of acid. He charges the Doctor steps out of the way, the guy falls into a vat of acid. The Doctor tooks around and essentially goes, "Sucks to be you."
Yeah, either way, you look at it, the Doctor dipped a guy in acid.
And then the guy came out and revealed himself to be the Joker.
I wish. No, he comes out of the acid and drags his buddy in.
Did he?
Yep. When his buddy comes in, tries to corner the Doctor, you see him coming out screaming, grabbing at the first thing he sees because he's been blinded by the acid, which is the pants leg of his friend, who then stumbles into the acid too. So, chain reaction, double death.
That's on your hands, 6th Doctor.
I mean, if there's any Doctor who does not give a damn, it's 6 and 7.
And again, that I think is largely to do with the way John Nathan Turner was directing the show at the time.
Sure.
And Eric Soward and whoever was doing the directing at that particular time. I can't remember if 6 was still Soward era or if it was just the end of 5. I know he's gone.
I was saying in terms of
I know he's gone by the beginning of 7th. And I think probably by trial, too. But yeah, this is it seems like this that caused the 18-month hiatus that Michael Grade put on the show. And the kindler and gentler Trial of a Time Lord series that came up next, which, completely and utterly failed. On the bright side, it did give us
his last episode as script editor Saywords was the last episode of Trial of the Time Lord.
Okay.
He resigned over a disagreement with John Nathan Turner over the storyline of the last episode of the season. Really?
Yeah. And so he goes through the end of the 6th Doctor. So really, part of this is Sayward's doing, part of it's JNT's.
And everybody on the internet wants to blame Colin Baker, or at least a fairly vocal minority.
Colin Baker, if you look at what he's done...
A fairly vocal minority do. I'm not saying that they have
Bill, I don't think that's even a vocal minority on the internet. Everyone knows that it's mostly John Nathan Turner and collaborators.
If you look at certain fan pages there are still people who
a lot of blame
season 24 on Sylvester McCoy and blame 22 and 23 on Colin Baker.
Well, first of all, Colin Baker was the target of the blame at the time that this was all going on. First thing you have to remember is that Michael Grade was sleeping with Colin Baker's ex-wife. And she hated him. So I'm pretty sure there was some pillow talk going on that was getting Michael Grade revved up against Colin Baker.
Apparently, Sayward had problems with Baker being casted as well, although I don't know what they were.
I don't know. I know Baker had issues with his outfit. He hated it.
It was J&T's choice.
He hated the concept that J&T brought forth that his regeneration would be unstable and would go on for like basically the entirety of season 22.
Oh, I might also add, thank goodness he got rid of that jacket for this episode.
He managed to get rid of the jacket for this episode.
Mm-hmm.
He also managed to get rid of it in another episode. Yeah, he would find excuses to take that jacket off. He despised that jacket with passion.
I think it was, what was it? Revelation of the Daleks, the Two Doctors, and Vengeance on Varos doesn't need to have it off for part of it. I think we were discussing that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so. He takes it. I think he manages to get it removed in Vengeance, due to the fact that there's a scene where he's basically dying of heat prostration, and I don't think in the acid bath scene.
I know part of the deal with this episode was that they worked really hard in the scripting process to make Colin be the likable young guy next to Troughton's old fogey, because everyone loved Troughton so much more than Baker. So I have a feeling, I haven't seen it explicitly stated that was why the jacket wasn't on, but if I were a betting man, I would put that on my...
Also, the fact that they were filming in Seville.
Yeah.
Where it's, 90-some degrees.
On a nice day?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be a factor as well, definitely.
So I'm pretty sure Colin said, yeah, I'm not wearing the jacket. You want me to do this on location filming? I'm not wearing the jacket. But yeah, the acting. So yeah, I blame the entirety of the problems on this on J&T, Eric Soward, and the lack of budget. The Doctor's performance is great. It is great. This is also, by the way, the last performance of Patrick Troughton as the Doctor.
As the second Doctor, yes.
Yeah.
I really wish they would have dyed his hair.
Yeah, they could have gotten away with that, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, because he definitely. I mean, I understand the whole point of him seeming older than he was on the other specials, but at the same time, the gray hair really doesn't help you see him as the same guy.
Yeah.
Correct.
Especially considering that Time Lords aren't supposed to age, and we seem to have this problem with the vast majority of multi-Doctor crossovers. Did he? I think his hair was black for the 5 Doctors, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was either dyeing it. If he was dyeing, he was either dyeing it in 83, or his hair really went through a change in those 2 years.
Right. I mean, at this time, I believe he was having heart problems, but...
He was starting to.
Yeah.
It also might have been why he wanted to do this, is because he knew he wouldn't be able to much longer.
Mm-hmm.
He figured he wouldn't be around for the 30th anniversary, and he was right.
Anywho, on that glum note, let's move on, shall we?
Yeah.
Another problem that is an issue, there is some minor problems with casting in this episode. The Santarans, again, were not cast properly. Santarans in all previous episodes are supposed to be slightly shorter than your average human.
Slightly, yes.
Whereas each one of the Santar, and they're all supposed to be the same height because they're a cloned species.
Right.
So they're identical.
Here, I think the commander was taller than the other one, right?
The commander was over 6 feet tall. I mean, they might as well have gotten David Prowse. And yet his subordinate was at least a foot shorter than he was. So somebody wasn't thinking right when they were casting. There was a ball dropped there.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, the masks were ill-fitting. I keep coming back to that because it is such an obvious problem with it.
As I showed a picture earlier, bloated mouth face, bloated fish mouth, blah, 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 if I could say it right.
Those are supposed to be pretty tight onto the lips so that the mask actually moved with it. That was one of the awesome parts of the mask when you first saw it.
And then there's this episode, and they are lucky if they can get them to move at all.
And this was an ongoing problem since the end of the Fifth Doctor era. I know they reused the masks originally used in the Sea Devils. In, what was that, Warriors from the Deep or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the one where the Sea Devils returned.
And again, it was obvious that those masks had deteriorated and they weren't being worn by the right people. Both the original masks for the Silurians and the Sea Devils were so comfortable that the actors would actually go on break with the masks still on. And they'd be sitting in the BBC cafeteria in their masks, calmly sipping tea and eating bacon sandwiches.
Bacon sandwiches?
Yes, that was general break food in BBC, bacon sandwiches. Look them up on Wikipedia.
Sounds
Is it like a
delicious.
BLT or just bacon on bread?
It's similar, I think, to a BLT, but not exact. You're making me look it up now, damn you.
Research! Excuse me while I adjust my microphone here for a moment. There.
It actually is a stacked sandwich of cooked bacon. It's like bacon, butter, ketchup, or a brown sauce.
I'll go for the
So
brown
it's like
sauce.
a roast beef sandwich, only with bacon instead of roast beef.
Britain, I love you.
And this is English bacon, so it's, thick sliced and salty.
And who said that all British food is bland?
Obviously, they don't eat at the BBC.
There is a wonderful anecdote about Tom Baker and the Pyramids of Mars, and that he made about a bacon sandwich. They were frequently, when you went on break at there, they would get bacon sandwiches for tea. Mm-hmm. And he's in the mummy costume where he's dressed up like that, and they go, cut, okay, tea time. And everybody leaves and turns off, and here he is. He can't get out of the mummy costume by himself. And so when they come back, turn it on, it's like, so what's the problem, Tom? And she's like, you'll notice these bandages have tear marks on them. They're for my bacon sandwich.
I still would refer to that episode and the joke played by Sarah Jane when they get him in that mummy outfit. Looks up at he goes, how do I look? And she goes, must have been a bad accident. And the Fourth Doctor goes back to her, don't tempt me. So obviously he was absolutely thrilled to be in that outfit.
But anyway, by this time, though, they were reusing a lot of this old masks and old material. And it was really showing because of the budget that was going, that they were in their own budget crunch. And mind you, this was because, the average production cost of a show had gone up, and Doctor Who's budget really hadn't, or at least not proportionally correct.
Mm-hmm.
They had always had to make the show on a shoestring budget. The thing is that the shoestring had started to fray by this point, and and John Nathan Turner could not get the BBC to give them any more money. They needed the money to get the better ratings, but because they weren't getting the better ratings, they weren't going to get any money. Kind of a catch-22, which was the downward spiral that the show was going to at the time, and this is indicative of part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Very much so, especially at the time. Oh. But yeah, I would have to say, despite having to apparently change locations, the location was still pretty good, all considering.
The location? Yeah, the location was good.
Had lots of free roam to wander about in, and had the nice villa there, and then they had the city locations.
I'm still kind of ever since the first time I watched this. I watched it a couple times before this. Before to get ready for the podcast. But every time I watch it, I'm trying to figure out why did the Centaurans and the Androgons feel like they needed to go to Spain in order to finish this.
They were trying to find an out-of-the-way location, because a lot of
the Doctor's favorite planet.
The Centaurans wanted to go there because, of course, Earth is this key outpost.
That's right.
For the sector of space for their war against the Rutans, and Shakai wanted to go there because he wanted to eat a human. But they needed an out-of-the-way place because there were members of the Third Zone governments that would be incensed at murdering a Time Lord to do these experiments. These experiments were unethical.
Of course, there's the fact that the Time Lords were very clearly aware of Earth, and any species that had met the Doctor was aware of this, but...
Yeah, but not a lot of people cared.
Yeah.
By the way, I've just double-checked, and yes, all of the Season 22 episodes were in this 2 by 45-minute formats.
Okay, so that's what I get for using Wikipedia for information.
And it was only this season, with, I think, the exception of Daleks before. And yeah, for stuff like this, Bill, I use the TARDIS data core at tardis.wikia.com.
I don't think that has as extensive of a single-page list in terms of being easy to read. I might be mistaken. I'm going to have to look that up myself now. I might be mistaken there.
Okay. Sorry, I was away for a moment. But yeah, I'm checking various seasons to see if there were any other ones that were in odd formats. I think the Fifth Doctor, the Five Doctors, I think, was in a bizarre format.
The Five Doctors was initially aired as a single part instead of 4 episodes.
Right.
Yep.
Not well, single showing, not part.
Season 21. Yes, it was independently broadcast in 45-minute episodes. Now, what did you say about the data core?
I was saying I didn't think it had a single list the way that Wikipedia does in terms of Doctor Who serials. I'm actually saying the one on data core is not bad, although it doesn't have as much information included on the list. For example, it doesn't mention episode length at all, at least not on a, let's see.
If you go by,
it mentions it in certain paragraphs, but not in the same way that the Wikipedia
it does in the season listings.
Right, yeah. Whereas the Wikipedia one will have a note next to the episode if, for example, the 5 Doctors being aired as a single showing, which, yeah, it doesn't really list anything special about the 5 Doctors other than that it's listed as one episode.
Yeah, well, I could probably edit some of these and add that stuff.
Sure. For some reason, every time I try to edit any Wikia lately, it won't load, but that's also because Firefox seems to be deciding to eat my RAM for no reason.
That's what you get for using Firefox, man.
Shut up, Matt. I use Firefox.
I think it's actually what I get for using Google Drive, because every time I use Google Drive, an hour later, my computer claims that Firefox is using 2 gigs of RAM on its own.
And I have no problems with Google Drive. So
I'll use my usual excuse and say Skynet.
Well, see, I had
either that or you're piloting a brick there, Bill.
Well, the computer I'm talking on now has 4 gigs of RAM.
So does my laptop.
We have a Malice cameo.
Something like that.
Don't make me bring in Weefle. Do not.
No, I'm just gonna say 8 gigs and leave it at that.
Yeah, Matt, and we'll remind you that of all of us here, you're the one that hasn't had a job in, like, ages.
Ouch. Ouch.
Actually, I don't think you've had a job since long before I had one last. But you're also able to actually look for one, whereas I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere.
You're stuck in Mayberry.
Which I hope to actually do some job searching this weekend, but that's up in the air, and that's a totally different story. Rewinding back.
Indeed. When we talk about vagabonds, we're talking about the ones in blue boxes.
Anyway. I don't have Flynn here to be facetious against.
Oh, so you're targeting me now? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And don't expect to thank you for it.
Well, I have to be dynamically opposed to somebody here, so.
Why do you have to be? You don't have to be.
I could spend the entire podcast arguing with Bill, but that's hard because we agree on almost everything.
I would say that this is a okay episode. It wasn't great, it wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't bad or horrible either.
It wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah, it felt like there could have been a little less padding.
Are you saying in ideal circumstances, or are you saying given the budget that they were given and given everything else?
Oh, and especially given the budget, they did a really good job.
Yeah, I honestly think that the downfalls of this season are the main downfalls of this episode.
Yes, mm-hmm. I also think they tried to do too much with this episode. They tried to bring in, Patrick Troughton and, classic writer, and do an on-location thing, and that just turned out to be too much
financially. That would have been fine if in the first, second, or third Doctor days when they used to do 6 and 7 and rarely 8 or more episode serials, you really had time to explore what was going on. While here, we're trying to figure out what's going on while at the same time following 2 separate storylines and multiple locations.
Yes.
So, like, for example, if this were 7 30-minute episodes like the Daleks, or pick almost any serial from the Hartnell years, you would have had time to do everything you're trying to do here.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm not saying it's not like it's an extremely short, rushed episode, but some concepts seem kind of.
I mean, no, what I'm just saying is the fact that you have Patrick Troughton, you have this. I would not have gone for a location shoot. I would have done something that would have either been on location in England or entirely on the set.
This is a weird decision. Like, this story makes sense to be done anyway, and the two doctors, the idea of having the two doctors makes sense as an idea. Putting them together, I'm not sure where they got the idea that this is the episode that they want these two doctors to be remembered as having a crossover for.
Yeah, I would have actually had this as the season closer, not mid-season.
Not Daleks?
Not Daleks, no. I mean, they obviously put the lion's share of the budget into this episode.
I can kind of see that. Here's a question. Did the vegetarian line from the last line of the episode, which was apparently part of the whole way Robert Holmes was writing the Androgums, was as a satire of butchery and meat-eating culture in general, did the whole vegetarian thing take up a lot of meaning in what was the following serial? I have to look at the list again. I lost track of where I was. In Time Lash at all?
No.
I don't think food at all really featured into Revelation of the Daleks.
It did not. We didn't see it. He broke his vegetarianism briefly in Mind Warp.
Which was the following season.
Right. And then...
Oh, that's another problem with the TARDIS data core. It lists Trial of a Time Lord as one episode. Or I guess one single adventure.
It also lists it as separate episodes.
Not in the list.
It does if you're looking in the seasonal episodes.
You're saying, if you go to the season page?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying in terms of the list of serials. Yeah, if you go to season 23, I'm like, would have to.
Yeah, but he tries some of, like, Sill's, some kind of minnows, right. Minced minnows or something that Sill's eating in Mind Warp.
So what I mean is your whole idea of making it the season finale would not be harmed by that vegetarian line at the end.
No.
Nope.
Not at all. I don't know if England has the equivalent of Sweeps Week, and if so, if they were doing this for some equivalent of Sweeps Week, I could have seen it.
I don't know what that is.
Sweeps Week is the time that they're usually highly scanning for ratings. So in America, a lot of TV, like sitcoms and stuff, usually air specials during Sweeps Week to try to attract more viewers than they normally have.
Well, John Nathan Turner at this time was doing a Sweeps Week every week, praying to God that we got something that would get more views. Much like a modern online reviewer.
Well, actually, if I had to pick any episode in season 22 that I'm, at least the ones that I'm aware of the plot of, or at least concepts of. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of season 22, as everyone here knows, but if anything, I would think the Mark of the Rani would be the best idea that translates well to having two doctors. Because here you have the Master and the Rani.
True.
You almost need two Time Lords going up against that would be a good concept.
Then again, you also then have 4 main characters that you have to write for, plus companions.
A companion.
If you have 2 doctors,
you have 2 doctors, you have 2 companions.
Oh, that's right. Whatever the other companion is for the other doctor. True.
Yes. It worries that it gets too complicated too quickly, and there really wasn't a nice way to make Mark the Rani have 2 doctors in it.
Right. And it definitely
even there, even in this one, their excuse on how both doctors are appearing at the same place at the same time is kind of contrived.
It's really contrived. Everything about, first off, the Sixth Doctor having no idea that the Second Doctor had ever been there, as though it were happening in his future, is weird in of itself.
But then
the whole fact of the Second Doctor being there in the first place makes no sense when you look at the Second Doctor's actual plots. And then, of course, you get the whole fact of changes to the Second Doctor that are going to wear off because the surgery was never finished, are supposedly affecting the Sixth Doctor.
Correct.
Immediately, which is...
And then, of course, they ask, how can you two be together at the same place? They shrug and go, well, you travel around the universe long enough, you're eventually going to bump into yourself, when every single Doctor Who crossover we've had previously has mentioned the fact that two doctors in the same place at the same time is a bad thing.
I can kind of explain that by saying the Doctor has really gotten used to it by now. When you look at it, I mean, the Second Doctor alone, actually, I'll ignore novelizations that hadn't even been written yet anyway, but still, the Second Doctor alone had met the Third and First Doctor twice each, plus he had met the Fifth Doctor. Then he met himself again as the Third Doctor twice, multiple times. He met himself again as the Fifth Doctor. By the time he's the Sixth Doctor, he's like, oh, fuck it, that's my life.
Oh, Smegget, we've done it so many times, it's not even a word to me anymore. Hi again.
No, I'm not talking in the caps of the Doctor's mentality. I'm talking in the form of the writing. Just 2 years ago, we were talking about how bad of an idea it was that all the Doctors are together, and then suddenly 2 years later, we're going, yeah, no biggie.
But it was specifically the Sixth Doctor saying that, and he kind of has an irreverent personality anyway.
No, the Second Doctor was doing it too.
The Second Doctor said, okay, well...
The Second Doctor was there agreeing with him.
Yeah.
The Sixth Doctor said it, and the Second Doctor nodded, and then kindly reminded the Sixth Doctor to stay out of his portion of the universe.
Right.
So, it's kind of a what the fuck. Make up your minds, producers.
Although, you can kind of say that as well. The Sixth Doctor is clearly the Second Doctor is clearly in the midst of his own trial right now, if we're going to pretend this makes any sense. So he has other things on his mind, but that's kind of a hit or miss argument on its own.
Yeah, you're going with that conspiracy again about the missing season thing, huh?
I'm not even going with that because...
You have to try to explain...
Yeah, see, that's the thing.
Massive plot hole.
I'm not denying it. At the same time, I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying something is the explanation, and whatever that explanation is troublesome, period. Whether that's the explanation or something else is, it's wibbledy-wobbledy, bullshitty bullshit.
Hand wavy.
Yeah, it actually mentions the Sontarn Mass has production errors on Wikia.
And here's the thing: if we're referring this to as a season after the War Games or during the War Games, then why the fuck did he just drop Victoria off?
Well,
there is a
novel. There is a novel that actually says that the Time Lords may have altered Jamie's memories. And it was just Jamie alone traveling with the Doctor, but his memory had been altered to think that, they had just dropped Victoria off somewhere. Like maybe he'd managed to broke this deal to go do this kind of stuff for the Time Lords after Zoe had already been sent back and Jamie's memory had been half erased.
And the weird thing is, I haven't experienced any of these stories myself. I don't think you have either. I might be wrong. But in the Sixth Doctor Big Finish adventures, Victoria comes back as a companion and goes to the land of fiction and makes a fake Jamie to travel around with her and the Sixth Doctor. Like, that's not why she makes him, but that's what happens.
Huh. I have not listened to those.
Sorry, I think I just said Victoria's name. I meant to say Zoe if I did.
Zoe, okay.
So Zoe apparently remembers what happened.
Probably because they can get the actor.
Yeah. I'm not sure if they got Fraser Hines or if it was somebody else.
Is Fraser Hines even still alive? Yes, he is. I'm surprised they haven't. I'm pretty sure if they asked Fraser Hines, he'd show up with bells on. Quite possibly literally.
Possibly a bit cute.
Shoot, I
pulled this out of the wardrobe.
They could get. There's a lot of companions they could get back. I know they can get Sophie Aldred back because she's doing Big Finish stuff constantly.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm surprised Big Finish hasn't gotten Fraser Hines back.
Oh, okay. The fictional Jamie I was talking about is Fraser Hines. So he is voiced by the same actor. It's just not the real. It's not the real character, but it is the real actor.
And why didn't they get... That seems to be a little out of the way to do it, Big Finish. What the hell?
Yeah, that's a little wonky.
The explanation that... The only explanation I've seen, and as I said, I haven't heard the story myself, was that Zoe Harry was transported back to the land of fiction after facing the Cybermen and created a fictional version of an older Jamie McCrimmon as a friend and a mystery for the Sixth Doctor to solve.
An older version of Jamie. For the Sixth
Of course,
Doctor.
because Fraser Hines had aged by that point, of course.
Still.
Oh. No, it's actually the other way around. Is you found several Big Finish things that had Zoe and Jamie. In their final story, however, they do a reveal that he is simply a fictional construct within the realm seen in The Mind Robber, created by an older Zoe based off her memories. Why she has memories, we don't know.
It's also wonky, but still, not... Weird little tangent we got on there.
It's basically it's an episode kind of, yeah, it's
topical.
Yeah, it's kind of it was directed by Nick Briggs.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff for the Big Finish stuff. So.
And the entire episode involves the Cybermen trying to conquer the land of fiction.
Awesome, I love to see that. Do it.
And it's a Sixth Doctor.
It's kind of ironic because the Cybermen having a concept of fiction is... Then again, they do have a concept of elegance. Cybermen are weird.
Oh, actually Zoe would have memories of Jamie. Because she still retained their initial meetings with
Oh, that's
with
right.
them.
She went back and taught... When she was brought back, she was erased of the traveling, but she did... still encountered the Second Doctor and Jamie.
So her memory still had Jamie from the Wheel in Space.
So this is based on her memories of her first appearance. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense. Just like Jamie, the real Jamie would remember the Doctor from
the Highlanders, but nothing after that.
Of course.
Zoe remembers the Doctor and Jamie from the Wheel in Space, but nothing after that.
Jamie cut something's head off in that episode. That's all I gotta say. I haven't seen it yet. And I know that came out before the movie, so they at least have that excuse, but still. Oh, they really missed it out. Wait, what year did Highlander come out?
84, 85?
I don't know if it was before the two Doctors. Oh, 86, so never mind. They wouldn't even have had that quote in this. I was going to... Because if Highlander came out first, I was going to say they really missed an opportunity for Jamie to say there can be only one talking about the two Doctors, but Highlander came out in 86. So even then,
classic Doctor Who never really did that.
Again, that's classic Who.
Now, they would bend themselves over to do that in the revised series.
Yeah.
But not in the classic one.
That was exactly... I forget what I was talking about earlier today in our group chat. I was precisely saying something would happen like that would happen in the new series. I forget what it was though.
I remember you talking about it too, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was. I just kind of went, yeah.
It's over 9,000.
Oh yeah,
Oh
over
yeah,
9,000
that's right. The
DVDs
guy
to
in the
cook.
pirate planet with the scouter.
Yeah. Because, kids and their internet memes and stuff.
Yeah, with the Scouter, but mind you, that was also done by Douglas Adams
And there's also
years before Dragon Ball Z.
The Dragon Ball Z. I think the manga was airing in a weekly format around the same year that the serial came out. So it's
No, it was
it
not.
had been written at the same time.
It was not.
They were both 88 to 89.
No. The Pirate Planet? No.
Did I read?
Pirate Planet was done in the 70s.
Yeah, what are you
Oh,
reading?
oh shit. Okay, 78 to 79 then. So that was my own mistake then.
Yeah.
So yeah, Dragon Ball started in 1984. Yeah.
Yeah, be a
they would
long
not-
ass time before
they would
either
not have
one
had
would be
that
around the
concept.
same time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's entirely my fault then.
And also off topic. Do we really have anything else to say about the two doctors?
Nothing really of great value to contribute, really. I mean, it's
Yeah, this is kind of a tangent episode.
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of an average, could be better type of thing. One thing I really thought Troughton would have more to do in this episode, and he really, in terms of being the Doctor, was kind of disappointing.
The only time he actually really got to shine was in the beginning, and as a half androgum.
Yeah, yeah, and he really was not acting like the Doctor, so I can call that Patrick Troughton playing an
Yes,
androgum.
but he had some epic moments there. Do they serve human there? Not that I'm aware, but I remember a dish called shepherd's pie.
Oh, yes.
Although I've got to say, and this is part of the satire that Robert Holmes was going for, but I can't imagine the Doctor eating Presta duck. I might be wrong, but that just does not seem like something that he would be entirely interested in.
Oh, I don't know. Current in the reboot series, he'll eat anything. Do remember he ordered steak and chips when the Ninth Doctor, when taking blonde fell
There are a lot of humans that will eat steak and chips that are repulsed by the idea of pressed duck.
I've never had pressed duck.
Neither have I. But I mean, just from my understanding of people's attitudes toward it, makes me feel like it would be something that very few versions of the Doctor would have any interest in trying. Unless it was at some sort of diplomatic function where he had to eat it because it was the only thing available.
What would be the issue with pressed duck?
Well, the whole concept of pressed duck is of all the blood being forced into the animal instead of killing it normally while it's cooked or whatever.
It's strangled to retain its blood.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, okay. Sorry, I hadn't really discussed this since biology class in 2003, but yeah, that strangling is probably the main problem. That's
not an uncommon way to prepare some of this stuff.
I don't know.
I mean, there are several people that strangle turkeys.
Yeah.
Before roasting them for Thanksgiving.
Most animals that I've seen are killed with a hatchet.
And you think
such?
And you think that hurts any less than strangling?
Yeah, hatchet is 1 second death, whereas strangling is usually several minutes.
Depending on how you strangle them. Anyway. Besides the fact that when you're served pressed duck, you really don't notice that because the fact that the entire thing is put into a wine press.
Meh.
So, again, it's one of those things that you wouldn't want to see it made, but you probably don't think about it when you're eating it.
Don't really care as long as it tastes delicious. It's true.
Anyway, yeah, besides that, we don't really see the second Doctor. I mean, I kind of would have thought to see the second Doctor fight against the androgam nature or do something particularly creative and doctory, and he really, other than being smarter than Shockeye, he really and more aware of Earth culture, he's really not.
Yeah, it seems, and the entire thing about this, the moral of the story is you can't get a leopard to change his spots. That's the entire thing with Chesini.
Mm-hmm.
Right there is you can't get a leopard to change their spots. Yet when they androgam the Doctor, suddenly he changes his spots.
Right, yeah, that's...
So they're kind of enforcing the moral.
The point is that you can change
their
their
spots
spots
at the
for
same
limited
time,
amount.
and that seems to be a bit confusing.
Right.
Well, I think what they're aiming for is that it could be changed for a limited amount of time, but before long they'll go back to their same old ways.
I can see that.
I think it's actually meant to be the point.
And then you have the Sixth Doctor getting the androgam nature trying to chase down a cat to eat it.
A cat, and what was it, a fish?
Well, that was before. He'd been big on...
No, like, literally right after the cat, there was a scene in a fountain. I don't know if it was just about drinking the water in an animalistic way, or if there was a fish, or what.
I don't remember.
No, he was splashing his face at the water. He was trying to stop the atrogum thing going on.
Oh, okay, you're right, I remember that now, okay.
He was trying to snap out of it.
The first time I saw it, I thought he was chasing a fish in the fountain.
Uh-huh.
No. That's too easy.
No, he was trying to snap out of it.
Now,
that's the thing. If this is becoming your nature, you're not really going to be snapping out of it.
Right. Although still, it doesn't make sense that it's becoming his nature when the surgery was never completed. There's
a lot of things that don't make sense, and those I have to blame the writing on, or the rewriting, I should say.
Yeah, there's probably writing and rewriting,
and I suspect that might be on Soward's doorstep rather than Holmes, but it also just be...
Speaking of the writing, we kind of went in a different direction before I said this, but when you're talking about making this a season ender, that would actually give us Holmes as the last episode before the hiatus and as the first episode after the hiatus. Because he did write the first part of Trial of the Time Lord.
Well, there's 18 months in the middle, so it's not exactly like it's contiguous.
True.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he's done other work in the break.
That said, if Russell T Davies had written Survival, I would still consider it a rather interesting fact, if nothing else. Although he had submitted a script apparently for what would become The Long Game in 1987 by all accounts.
Who? Russell T?
Yeah, Russell. Apparently Cartmel turned it down for not being grounded enough.
I didn't even know he was on the scene then.
He was probably just starting.
Yeah, he must have been a new television writer.
Let's see. When was this?
Maybe he was a student at the time.
87 from...
He would have been 24 at the time.
So yeah, he would have been just out of college.
He didn't actually start his television career until 1994.
I'm seeing 1988. On the Waterfront.
Oh, that's children's television.
So was Doctor Who at the time.
Yeah, I know.
Although it's kind of hard to call anything in the Cartmel era children's television, but or even the Sayward era for that matter, considering
but it still had the budget of a children's television show.
So yeah, he was writing children's shows for the I'm assuming British. Although I don't know for sure, but I don't recognize any of these names.
Anywho, so are we going to call it here then?
I think so.
So, ratings?
people who are strong fans of this episode like to talk about that this plays with the idea of the human-looking monster versus the non-human-looking monster, and watching the episode, I can't really see it that way. I don't know if either of you saw anything like that, whereas I guess the thing, about being shocked that the Androgums are treated as being as monstrous as the Centaurans, but I'm coming from a stronger sci-fi background than the average fan watching it when it came out, but still, it doesn't really come across in any strong way that way for me.
No, I wasn't saying it as being as monstrous because of that. I was just saying...
No, I'm not saying about anything you were saying. I'm saying that a popular view of people who are fans of this is that they're seeing it as a satire of where traditionally Doctor Who would treat the humans one way and the inhuman-looking aliens, such as the Cybermen and everything else, a different way. Whereas in this episode, the Androgums look human and the Centaurans don't, and they're both treated as equally monstrous.
No, what I find shocking is actually how the Androgums are treated by the other races, period. You would think in an enlightened, futuristic society, you wouldn't have second-class citizens where the Androgums are clearly treated as such.
Right. I agree with that.
Oh, it's just an Androgum, nothing important, move along, I mean, it really kind of reeks...
Actually, yeah, if anything struck me as odd, it's the Doctor's behavior. I don't think I've ever seen him write off a Cyberman or a Dalek the way he writes off the Androgums as a species.
Yeah. It seemed rather racist to me.
Yeah, it's like, I don't like... I can't think of... is there anything that he despises as much as Cybermen or Daleks? Centaurans, maybe, but even then, he recognizes the Centauran sense of honor, which the Androgums, he doesn't even acknowledge that. He basically just treats them as the trash of the universe.
Yeah, that was...
A bunch of morons that just cook everything.
Yeah, that did kind of hit me as odd, and that had to be in there from the writing standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And that, if anything, that might have been an attempt at satire, but if so, I think it kind of falls flat.
Yeah.
It does, and it really kind of, puts the Doctor's mentality in a bad light there. I don't have to take that kind of thing from an Androgum.
Right. Yeah, he's basically like, who do you think you are, a lowly Androgum, talking to a Time Lord like that?
Mm-hmm. Back that up, remove Androgum, put in Black Man, and you would have all kinds of hell.
Right.
Oh, yeah. But that's another story.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying, though, is that's really kind of...
especially when you consider that the opposing view to what I've said is mentioned that, Androgums tend to have a lot of visual characteristics of races that have been treated as second-class citizens of, Arabic culture or, the red hair and such. That was, the Irish were largely treated as second-class citizens, I believe in both America and Britain, if I'm getting my history right.
At points, yes.
Yeah. So they're definitely, look like people have been oppressed and mistreated.
So, really, what you're saying is that the storyline boils down to Androgums are a bunch of gingers, therefore have no souls? Is that what Robert Holmes was trying to get across?
It might be.
Yeah, I think there's... I take it back that the writing was good. I think there was some
hiccups.
Some core issues with the writing.
The writing had some good ideas, but I do not think this was a strong Robert Holmes script, especially since he seems to be pinholing hypnotism into Doctors. It doesn't seem to... I just watched a third Doctor episode, a fourth Doctor episode, and a sixth Doctor episode, all written by him. They all featured hypnotism. Now, it works perfectly for Pertwee, kind of for Baker in that era, but it doesn't seem to really be something that Colin Baker would employ as his first resort.
Where does he use
Colin
it?
Baker did it multiple
He
times.
hypnotizes Jamie in order to calm him down and get him to explain.
That's actually... Yeah, I had no issues with that, Bill. I think you're kind of pulling that out of proportion there.
Yeah, that one you're pulling a little bit out. Colin Baker did do that multiple times with the watch and the hypnotizing thing.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, he did that multiple times. As a matter of fact, in his Dalek episode, he did it.
I remember the watch breaking in the Revelation.
He hypnotized the guy that was kind of looking like a zombie.
Doesn't narrow it down that most of the people that worked at that thing looked like zombies. But regardless, no, I think that one's a bit out of proportion.
Just a hint. Although it is
I'm just seeing it as a repetitive nature. Most people won't have happened to see 3 random Robert Holmes episodes that all had that as a plot point in sequence the way I did. It just feels like
it wasn't even really a plot point in this. I mean, he could have done anything to Jamie to calm him down.
And he did more than just hypnotize him too.
But I mean, it's not like you couldn't remove it and still have gotten on with the plot, Bill.
Right.
There are several Robert Holmes episodes where the bad guy being hypnotized is a key point.
Right.
So I wouldn't really, I don't really think it's a big thing here. It was just, he wrote the guy being hysterical, needed something to calm him down. Hypnotism's one of the more common ways.
Yeah, I just kind of think like this. I would see that for certain doctors, whereas the 6th Doctor, I would see, giving him a slap and that being his method of solving it.
No, I've not actually seen that. I mean, yes, he's tried to strangle Perry, but that was fresh off the regeneration. Yeah. And he did think Perry was the terrible Zodin at the time.
Yep.
Other than that, he really hasn't been that kind of harsh, beat the shit out of you type.
No, I'm not saying
the 3rd Doctor I could have seen slapping somebody, but not the 6th.
Yeah. So anyway, we were about ready to rate this before we went into this little go around.
Well, we were considering it. Yeah, I guess that's it for me. Anybody else have any?
No, I think I've gone through all my points.
Yeah. So, who wants to go first?
Well, I think we've pretty much all agreed that we're considering what were we saying? Basically, middle of the road, slightly below average, or average.
I was thinking 3 before this when taking the writing back to spec on contributing the Doctor as a bit of a racist with this. I'm thinking I'm dropping that to a 2.
I kind of agree. I was coming into this as a 3, maybe 3.5 a week ago. After discussing it and hearing you guys' opinions of it and coming up with more of my own, I'm going to say a 2 as well.
I'd say about 2.5.
So 2.5. It's 6.5 divided by 3 is a little bit over 2.
Yeah, 2 was it probably like a 2.166 or something?
Something like that.
Actually, I have a calculator open on my screen, but
half of 3. Yeah, 2.166 is about right. So 2.2. We'll just round.
So yeah, any of the previous crossover episodes are actually kind of better than this.
If we want to put Flynn's opinion in that, it'll change drastically, but I don't think any of us are really prepared to speak on his behalf. Yeah.
He loves this episode, and
I kind of wish he was
probably
here.
feed rubbish into it for hours on end when we talk to him.
I kind of wish he was here because I would have kind of, I would have liked to see someone to come out and straight out defend the episode, because I'm sure there are defenses. I don't feel like I'm ready to advocate them.
Yeah.
But I know he's a fan of the episode enough to advocate those defenses and have a dialogue about it. Whereas,
and again, it's not like it's
about this tonight after the podcast,
but it's just kind of.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the 2 Doctors.
So I take it we're going to end
done. Yep. So meet us here next week to talk about the next Doctor and the 30th anniversary special. And we'll catch you then. Well, hopefully next week. That's assuming that all goes well, because, things do happen, and as we've seen the past few weeks.
We'll see what happens if things don't go quite as planned. But yeah, see you all next time.
Good night.